Okay, so we're starting. Sorry for the bit of wait there.
Yeah,
So we're starting.
We should probably turn it off.
Sorry for the bit of. There we go. That would have just jammed me right up the whole time.
There you go.
You want to make that screen high?
The what? You can.
Is that on here?
Yeah.
I have some control. There you go. Awesome. Hi. Anyways, this is the 2024 Postmortem. If you haven't heard of postmortems before, it's pretty much the process where we look over things, look over what we did in the past, now, I guess? I was going to say in the future, but obviously now. So it's mostly just like a retrospective on projects we did or, yeah. So everyone, there's a few people here that are going to present on their projects or if they want to call it projects or something else. And talk about their, what they learned and the hardships they had during that and everything. But I think we're just going to get started right away. And I think we have our first person is Lucky. So Lucky will come up and set up.
Thank you, Sasha.
Awesome. I'm going to get out of the frame here.
Cool. So we'll switch it for you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I've got some slides that I will talk in front of for a bit.
Okay. There you go. So if you want to put it in the full screen or presenter mode.
Yeah, I'm going to do slideshow mode.
And then also click on the hide button for that thing.
Or that. Oh, okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
You don't have permission to play two media objects in this presentation.
Oh, you must have like videos in your.
I do.
If you want to send, you can. Yeah, go for it. If you want to go send me like permissions. And then.
While we're waiting, I'm just going to say that a special thanks to New Media Manitoba and Studio Lab XR for letting us use their space. You don't want to overlook that. So yeah.
It's the same link that I sent you, but I gave you editor access. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. If it does not, then
It's
just
with
from
the,
my computer.
Or just make it like viewable to anyone. That's do that instead.
Okay.
This is not to it's not signed into my Google account.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be easier. If we can do that.
What? Auto advanced slides. I sent you one last link. I'm not sure if this is going to be. Oops. Oh,
You go to the Discord, and then
okay. Oh. I think that's going to work.
awesome.
All right. F11 to full screen. Wonderful. All right. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with me for that. I'm going to talk about my game Single Feather, a charming platformer about a duck and a scientist who don't get along. They're natural enemies, ducks and scientists. And there have been some releases so far, and there's still more to come. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Lucky Adams. I'm a software developer. I do QA, software testing, and art and animation. I do everything for this game. Whoops. And I like to say that solo game development is a hard way to make easy money. You're not breaking a sweat, you're not dealing with angry customers or hurting your body, but so in that way it's easy, but it's hard because most people don't make much money from it. And I know because I released a commercial game in 2019 that didn't make very much money. It's called Seabird's End of an Age. It's a piracy game about trying to find treasure. Throughout the presentation, I have these like QR codes. If you want to scan, you can go to the game and find it. But unless there are any objections, I'm usually just going to move on pretty fast. Stay on time. Atmosphere and Freerider 2 were two really big inspirations for my game Single Feather. They're both these games that are centered around like user-generated content and making levels. Atmosphere is like a 3D platformer where you just have some starting point and end point that you're trying to get to beat the level, and then a bunch of obstacles. Freerider 2 is similar, but you're riding a bike in 2D on like this track. There are other vehicles, but it's mostly about bikes. And Freerider 2 is something that I wasted a lot of time on as a kid, especially like on school library computers. Kirby's Dream Course is like art inspiration for my game. I love the really saturated colors. And this is what my game looks like. You can see like very saturated colors. It's got like 3D stars or pink stars that move in like fake 3D. But it's got some differences. It's more like naturalistic with like brush strokes and stuff. This is something that I'm trying to do, which is a little different from what I've seen other games do. The release strategy is to turn one game into a series of games, rather than put all your eggs in one basket, pun very intended. The idea is that I have like a series of smaller releases so they can gain attention from people. Have 4 large commercial releases, but for each of those commercial releases have like multiple demos that are some are tiny, just like individual levels. And for these demos, I've started with charging it for the first month and then making it free after that. And we'll talk about how that went with the last one. Also a free level loader that allows people to play user-generated levels for free. Other games in the genre, like platformers with user-generated levels, like Mario Maker, for example, you have to buy Mario Maker to play anybody's level. But my idea with this game is, sure, you buy Single Feather, my game, but if somebody makes their own level, that's their level. And they get to share it with whoever they want, and they can share it for free if they want to. So you don't need to pay me. This is the first demo, Single Feather Demo Hatchling. I learned a lot, not least of which is not to use 3 different fonts in the same logo. I don't know what I was thinking with that. Oh yeah, my shirt, it's got like the same Single Feather text, just been updated since, but yeah. This is what it looked like, very similar, but it's the art has just been touched up a bit in a lot of little ways. That's the QR code to the demo if anybody's interested. So what did I learn? One thing is that web games get way more plays than free downloads. I kind of don't trust, at least not on itch.io, at least personally, like just to find some random game and then play it, to have it not actually be a virus or something. But at least in the web, it's like, it's in a browser and there's certain safety features that they have. And also you can just click the button and play. So that was great for when the game became free, having many more people playing it. So I would recommend that. I also did a launch party with friends where we got together and we played the demo when it first got released. And that was great for just making it fun and not as stressful. It's more about making memories and having a good time. Yeah, like I said, charge the first month and then make it free. And an effective way to reduce stress is that I only decided on the release date for the demo after I had already made something that was basically done. And that's not what people normally do. They normally set some ambitious release date and then they develop really, really hard to get it to where it needs to be, and they're doing promotion at the same time, and then they fall behind and they have to push back the deadline, whereas this is just, I have something that I feel comfortable and proud to ship. And then I spend like the next month or two, it was about 2 months at that point, between finishing and releasing, doing like promotion, and then like any like little small improvements I wanted to do, but nothing big. It really made things easier. My last game, Seabird's End of an Age, it was more the other way, where I set a release date as an ambitious thing. I didn't blow past the deadline, but I came so close, and I was really nervous leading up to it. And I say, like, the bottom bullet point, I use the phrase seasons of your life, which I heard from some other developer once about game development, how there are different periods where sometimes you're doing a lot of development, other times you're doing lots of promotion, other times you're doing lots of maintenance and testing and whatnot, ideation and designing, bug fixes and testing, times for promotion, times for maintenance. If that sounds familiar, it's a little bit like Waterfall. Waterfall is dead, long live Waterfall. And these are more of the lessons learned. So most people only play for short periods of time, for this demo at least. Sometimes it would just be like less than a minute. They'd open it up and then go away. And then other people, it would be an hour or more. Charging money for a demo is really an uphill battle. Like, why am I paying for a demo? They're always free. So that was a challenge. And I'm thinking of the idea of rebranding a demo to it's just a small game. It's just a small game in a series, which is true. But that's also kind of what a demo is. Random people on the internet are also much better at my game than my friends and my family. I just go for people in my circle or like other game developers or whoever. Most of them are pretty not great at platformers, but random people on the internet will just go like bam, 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 level after level after level. Not all of them, but some of them it's just shocking. And then I got feedback about controls, wanting more variety in the art, and changes to levels and more variety and stuff like that. Oh boy. I think I can switch computers now if that's needed. Or not?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Just I'm going to send you a link
Oh, you will?
to open, no, just so I can get your screen on the, like you can send me your computer screen to my computer.
Okay.
Wireless via Wi-Fi using a link.
All right. I love it.
Yeah, it's magic.
What an age we live in. Yeah. That's the thing about going first is you troubleshoot some of the common problems. Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Oh, okay.
No. You have to, let's do this. Go to the internet, actually, we'll do this.
Did that say No. Oh, I have to send you a link? Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then, whichever screen you want to share, you just have to, if it has audio, make sure you check off the box for audio.
Select window or screen. I select from there. Oh, okay.
You can select the
Entire screen is
too,
what I
and
want.
then,
That's just easier.
Mute. If you have the audio on too, then.
Audio does not matter. Okay, I will do allow. Invalid state error. Get media display requires transient activation from a user gesture.
You can do it without then. You don't. Well, I'll have you send it to me after, and then I'll put it in. But you can just go ahead for now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a before and after of what the game looked like. Imagine a game that looks kind of crappy and amateurish on the left, and then one that looks awesome on the right. Just imagine it. Oh, hey, what the heck? Oh, that's a YouTube video. That's why it works. So that's what it looks like now. Back in the day, it looked very...
Or you can just request access, and then you on your computer.
But then it takes me to Google.
Yeah, and just request access.
Oh, literally, yeah. Okay.
And then you just have to go into your computer and accept that request.
Okay, awesome.
I probably should have said that from the beginning, maybe. Then that way everyone can see it too.
Yeah.
then you have to refresh possibly, but.
Okay, I will share, and I will refresh. Okay,
Awesome.
so that's what it used to look like. There's an attack button that I got rid of almost immediately, and it's just quite rough around the edges, just to give a sense of how far it's gone. And holy crap, I've been working on this for almost 4 years. That's a lot, but it's been very on and off. Next, there we go. Here we go. Why? Well, why make a pixel platformer? It's 2024. Like, people have done this before. By the way, this episode of The Simpsons came out 3 years before I was born. And that's George Harrison of the Beatles. The Beatles is a band that formed 2 years before my mom was born. What? Love and enthusiasm. Simply, I just want to. And I can, so I will. I think they're fun. And I had this idea in me for a long time, and I really just wanted to put it out there and make it a real thing. People are familiar with them. Don't underestimate that. Like, people can pick it up and play it more easily than if it was some really weird game. Not that those are bad, but it is a strength of platformers is that people know how to play them for the most part. And there's so much potential for a variety of gameplay. There's so many different types of platformers, and I feel like there's still a lot more to explore. And then the last point, which is really important, is they can be just absolutely tiny or they can be huge. And I wanted to start with a tiny core of a game and then gradually, iteratively, like rings on a tree, just slowly more and more and more and more layers onto it as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That was the idea. The core of the game is just, at its smallest, it's just you have a starting point, you run and you jump, and then you get to the end. But I keep adding more complexity and more layers to it, and that makes it kind of, I don't know, that's the way I want to make games. How do I make my game unique? It's especially important for a pixel platformer, but every developer has to ask this question. The premise being a duck versus a scientist. I've never heard of that before. Ducks are very cute, and some people have and will open it up or play it just because the premise is charming. I invested a lot of time into making beautiful and unique art with like a weird color palette and one that I think has a unique sort of look. The brush strokes with the pixel art and the high saturation of colors is just sort of its own thing. Someone can play user-generated levels without buying my game. Your levels are your game. There's no terms of service yet, but I'm going to make it extra clear when there is that you hold the copyright when you make your game. Levels are files that get exported from the game and can be shared however people want. I'm not creating a platform, so there's not like some server where people share and download levels that I make, not some special website or whatever. People can share them via email or Discord or whatever they want, which is kind of weird, but also cool. But being one person, I have to know my limitations, but it also kind of gives players a bit more freedom than they would for other games like this. Also, people's introduction to the game can be something like, my friend made this level and wants me to play it, so now I'm playing Single Feather. And that's quite different than how people generally discover games. I'm going to move on. Oh, crying out loud, I went backwards, not forwards. The level editor. So that's what it used to look like on the left, and that's what it looks like now. And it's extremely complicated. And the random advice I'll give is just don't make a level editor, don't release it unless you are like really, really committed to doing that. Because it's hard. Most people don't want to make levels. It's like, oh, cool, I'm running, I'm jumping, I'm playing levels as a duck. Do I want to make a level? No. Most people really don't want to. A lot of user-generated levels are bad. It makes your game way more complicated to develop. The user experience problems are very challenging. Your editor will have a steeper learning curve than your actual game. Like I said, people know platformers. They can mostly pick them up and play them. But level editors are pretty foreign to most gamers. Questions like controller support or with controller support, if you're naming the level, there's like graphical user interface keyboard that you press A, B, C, D to type on. That's annoying to make. Working with focused logic and keyboard navigation is a big time sink. If you want to spend all your time working on UI, it's usually some people's least favorite part of game development. And then, of course, you're competing with really big and very good games. But here's some ways that I mitigated these challenges, and they are really big challenges. One is quality and just putting so much effort and time and having really high standards, testing thoroughly and often, especially like usability testing with real people, and making it easy to learn is something that I've worked really hard on. Instead of you just opening it up and you have access to all these available tools, you unlock options in the level editor as you go through levels in the campaign, because there are those two components to the game. There's a campaign of levels that I make, and then there's a level editor. So you don't just get everything, you just get drip-fed these things, which will hopefully not overwhelm or confuse your players quite as much. It will still confuse them, at least sometimes, for some people. And it acts as frequent encouragement. You constantly unlock these things and get reminded, hey, you should try out the level editor. Hey, you should try it out now. How about now? And it teaches people how to actually interact with these elements that go into levels, because it's not Mario. We all know Mario. Well, we've all played Mario. We know what Goombas do. But my game with its own elements, people need to be taught how these work. So that's why I introduce all these elements gradually. I'm copying familiar software. That would especially be things like Paint.net or like MS Paint or Photoshop, Krita, different like image editing software. And then doing tons of usability testing has been so useful and important. Testing with a diverse group of people or types of people. Children, old people, men, women, people with disabilities and those without, people who play lots of games, people who never play games, but especially you want to test with people who like this kind of game, your kind of game. And then another way I've seen before, I've never done it myself yet, but for some of those games that I was inspired by is having level making contests, and then you give prizes out to the people who make the best levels. And so it can keep people engaged and having fun and give motivation to use the level editor. User experiences will vary from person to person so much. This is more lessons learned about usability testing. And again, that's part of why diversity is so important. People are just very different. And the more you learn that people's experiences vary, the more comfortable you will be with people disliking your game. It can be cringy and embarrassing and uncomfortable to show your game to people, but if you see that people are so different, having some people not like it sometimes will feel okay, given that people are different. The average person is not very good at platformers, I learned. Some people are great at them, but a lot of people are not, at least not in my social circle. And learn about the difficulty curve, what could be improved, ways to improve pacing. I even found some bugs. And then some people make suggestions that are really insightful, although not necessarily. Screw it, I'm not going to show this video. We'll move past that. But it's an audience question. I'm supposed to engage you. How does the video work? How does what happened here work? I'll just explain it. So there's a file in that video. It's a video, it's a screen recording of my computer. You see this file, it ends with lvl.png, and you open it up, and it's a screenshot of the game. It's just a screenshot of one particular level. It doesn't even contain all the content of the level, it's just some of it. And then I drag and drop that into the level editor, and then bam, it loads / generates that entire level that had that picture of it into the game. So a PNG file, a picture, had all the information in it to create the level that that screenshot came from. And the way that that works is you can secretly embed hidden metadata comments into PNG files, which has all the level data you need. So it looks kind of like a thumbnail for a YouTube video or something, and you click on the YouTube video and you get the actual video. This is kind of the same idea. You see a picture, which is like a thumbnail for a level. You bring it into the game, and then you see the whole actual game. But Well, there's some problems with that. Remember how there's no platform for user-generated levels, at least no custom one? There's no special website or part of the game where you upload and download levels? Well, then people are left to their own devices on how to share levels that they've created, how to find other people's levels. So platforms that they might use are, let's say, Facebook, which converts those PNG files into JPEG files. Slack it'll keep it as a PNG, but it'll just get rid of that metadata that has all the level information just silently and without telling you anything. And Instagram is just, don't get me started. It's not meant for this sort of weird thing. Thankfully, Discord, which I think is the most important platform, works perfectly fine for sharing these sorts of levels for now. It's their platform, not mine, and who knows if they'll change how it works. Also, the user experience is really unintuitive. People don't expect this to be how an image file works. They need to be taught how it works. And so for all of these reasons, yes, it's cool. I like it. I think so anyway. I think it's cool. But for these reasons, JSON is the default file format that levels are saved as. And we're getting pretty close to the end here. What does the future hold for Single Feather? Let's just say I've got a few ideas up my sleeve. Oh yeah, that's the QR code to go to the Steam page if anyone's interested. So mid-September, there's going to be the next iteration of the series, the next demo released, or small game in the series, if we want to call it that. And then a month later, Next Fest begins, which is the Steam Festival for demos. And then the game becomes free. And then levels will be shared on the Single Feather Discord server with level sharing contests, I hope. But yeah, I don't know. It's quite a lot for one person. I forget what slides are next. There we go. That's the end of it. Hey, you can follow me on YouTube or on Itch. I really appreciate this opportunity, and thanks everyone for listening to my chat, those both in the audience and those online. Thank you. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you, Lucky.
You're welcome.
Awesome. I think we're just going to move right on to the next version.
Sure. Yeah.
So, who's going next? Yeah. Awesome. Matthew. We have Matthew. Awesome.
Hi, everyone. All right. There you go. Okay. Hold on. I will accept that request for the video. Okay. Share that, so hopefully that'll work. All right, thanks everyone. I'm super excited to be here and get to talk about my game, Dark Pixel. Before I start, just want to say thanks to the organizers. This is an awesome event. It's awesome to get to share and talk about the games we make. It's awesome to get to hear about everyone's projects, and this wouldn't be possible without the hard work of Dan and our host, Media Manitoba, and everyone. So I just wanted to shout them out and say thanks for putting this together. It's awesome to have this in the community. Heck yeah. All right, so here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to start with a little introduction to myself. I'm going to talk about my game, Dark Pixel. I just recently went through an alpha with my game, and so that's what this postmortem is about. So I'm going to kind of talk about some of the things I learned from doing that alpha and why I found that alpha to be valuable. So introduction, me, hi, I'm Matthew Bluff. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a game developer. I'm kind of addicted to game development. My day job is I work at Ubisoft making games, and then during the evenings, I continue to make video games. And for the past 7 years, I've made a bunch of different game jam games for a bunch of different game jams. And if you doubt my dedication, then you should know that for my wedding, I hand-built a custom arcade cabinet and made custom versions of classic arcade games starring me, my wife, and our dog. And if you don't believe me, there's a picture of us playing the arcade cabinet at my wedding. So yeah, my game dev love runs deep. So what is Dark Pixel? I'm going to mute that. Okay. So I've been working on like the pitch for this. So here's my nice shined up elevator pitch for it. Dark Pixel is a minimalist 2D precision platformer about a pixel on a journey to save its world from the threat of oblivion. So that kind of sums it up real succinctly. I won't get too much into the content of the game because I don't think that's as important for this postmortem. But the two things I will mention about it. One is that the goal for this is eventually to release it free on Steam as like a full game. I'm going to use that term full game. That's not to deride Game Jam games, but it's just there's kind of a level of, amount of stuff that goes into like a full game that you're releasing on Steam versus a Game Jam game. So it's not the same thing bad about Game Jam games. Game Jam games are totally games. But yeah, just to clarify, yeah, the idea is that this is going to be released eventually for free on Steam. The other thing I'll quickly mention about the development process is that this is basically a compo style game. So if anyone's unfamiliar with compo games from Game Jams, it's from the Ludum Dare Game Jam. And basically the compo category is you have to do everything yourself. So code, art, music, everything. So on this game, I'm the programmer, game designer, artist, writing, sound design, everything I'm doing. Of course, I put a little asterisk on there because even though I'm doing it all myself as a solo dev, I'm still using Unity, so I'm leveraging their game engine. I'm using a bunch of packages from Unity, including the Corgi engine is the main one that I'm using. It's a raycasting 2D engine for all the platforming, so that's kind of what's driving a lot of my code. For music, I'm using music from the Free Music Archive, so I'm not the greatest composer, so I'm sourcing that from somewhere else. And of course, it takes a village to kind of raise a child, and takes a bunch of love and support from my friends and family in order to do this stuff. So even though I'm a solo dev, there's a whole bunch of people who help support me and get me able to do this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of timeline of Dark Pixel because some of you may be having a bit of deja vu hearing me talk about a postmortem of this game because I originally made it back in 2017 for the Winnipeg Jam event, and I even did a postmortem presentation about it back then in 2017. So this might feel very familiar in some way. So that was the first version of the game. I made a version of it for the Winnipeg Jam. There's about 9 stages that I kind of did during the course of that jam. Then the game kind of sat there. One of those many games where it's like, oh, I like that idea. I'm going to get back to that eventually and kind of flesh it out. Then in 2022, along with some people that I work with, I participated in a charity stream for Extra Life. So I did a 24-hour stream, and instead of playing video games, I did game dev. And so I worked on Dark Pixel for 24 straight hours. So did a bunch of work on it, iterated on a bunch of the levels, put a bunch more content into it. And then that just kind of sat there. I didn't release that version of the game. I just kind of did a bunch of work on it, pushed further down the line of being complete, but it still wasn't like done yet. So I was like, you know what, I'll wait and I'll do something with it later. So then this year, I was like, you know what, I'm going to release the game for Steam. I've done these Game Jam games. I want to do like a full game. You know what I mean? So this is so that was my kind of like life goal that I did. And so I decided, you know what, I got Dark Pixel. I've done all this work on it. Why don't I just like kind of finish it up, take it to kind of the cross point and the finish line. But of course, what I'm really saying is kind of this, where I'm going to suddenly turn all my attention to Dark Pixel. All my other projects couldn't get forgotten, and friends, family, social life. Who needs that? So yeah, so then, so this is kind of, it was in May that I made that decision. I'm going to do a full game. I'm going to try and get it done this year. So this is kind of the production timeline since then. So back in May, I'm like, okay, I'm going to release the game on Steam. I'm going to make it a full game. And I'm going to do it by the end of the month, because why not set ambitious deadlines that you can't achieve? I hadn't seen Lucky's talk yet, so I didn't know to make the game, then set the deadlines. I was still in the make the deadline, then finish the game mode of production. So I picked Dark Pixel, because I'm like, okay, there's a lot of work done here. I can kind of like, polish it out and finish it up. And I kind of went at it in the way that I usually normally do it, compo style, just like, okay, here's what I want to get done. Here's the pile of work I got to get done. I'm just going to start plugging away at it. Hit the end of the month, didn't quite get the game done. So start June, I'm like, you know what? The strategy still works. Continue working. So I just worked, and just powered away at this mountain of work that I had. And made a lot of progress, was getting a lot of stuff done. But I kind of, by the end of June, I was like kind of halfway up the mountain where I still had like a ton of stuff left to go. And I was feeling a little overwhelmed and not feeling great about stuff. So I decided, you know what, I need to like come at this from a different direction. I need to reevaluate this. So start of July, I decided to reschedule. And I was looking at it, I looked at the work I had done, I looked at kind of what I was anticipating the end game to look like, and I decided to give myself a lot more time, be a lot more lenient with my timeline, and I said, I'll give myself 2 months instead of just a month this time. And so I'm aiming for like a launch at the end of August on Steam. So then I was looking at that schedule and backdating it. I was like, you know what might be, you know what might help this is if I got some extra vacation time. So I'm just going to take a dedicated week and just work on the game. So I'm going to book off work, just spend 40 hours solidly invested in this game. That'll help me get to that launch point, and I'll just invest all this time in it. So then at that point, I decided to stick an alpha in the middle of this. Now that kind of seems like a weird decision in some ways. For example, I've already kind of made an alpha version of this game. I made a demo. I have like a prototype version to kind of prove stuff out. It's also kind of, I'm going to end up polishing up stuff and finishing a bunch of stuff that isn't directly like getting me to that end result, right? Like I'm kind of creating a middle stage where now I have to like finish stuff and polish stuff up. So like it doesn't seem to like, on some levels it wouldn't seem to like have a lot of value. But what I thought is that, you know what, if I do this alpha, I can have this version of the game, I can give it out to some people, I can start getting some feedback. And then in August, after I do this dedicated week, I'll have like all of August kind of respond to the feedback and kind of iterate that into my development. So this was the plan at the beginning of July. Yeah. So and that's when I made the alpha. So I made the alpha for the first 3 weeks of July. I released it 2 weeks ago to some of my close friends and kind of started getting their opinions on it. And these are kind of the learnings that I learned from doing that alpha and the value that I got out of it. So first of all, I mean the alpha itself is kind of an MVP. By MVP, by the way, I mean minimum viable product. So it's kind of like the bare bones basic version of something that runs like from start to end. So the alpha itself is really an MVP for the entire product. But, and this is what my MVP looked like. This is kind of what I sat out when I said, like, okay, I'm going to do an alpha. This is what I need to have implemented. I want to have the kind of the core game from start to finish. So starting with main menus, also have the settings screen hooked up so you can actually like adjust stuff. Have some cutscene placeholders for my opening cutscene and my ending cutscene. So that would give me like at least the bare bones of a story. And have 2 levels feature complete. So you could like, start the game, have the opening cutscene, play 2 levels, the ending cutscene, game ends, goes back to the start menu, the whole start to finish flow. So you have that kind of for the whole game, but also when making this alpha, you kind of have to do MVPs for all like the elements within the game, a lot of the elements within the game as well. So for example, something that always gets neglected in my Game Jam games, I always sat out of the Game Jam game, I'm like, I'm gonna make a setting screen for this Game Jam game. And that it always gets tossed out into the Game Jam because there's just no time and it's not as high priority. But on a full game, obviously, you need access to settings. So I had some settings kind of set up, hooked up into my game, but I hadn't actually made the setting screen. And doing the alpha obviously made me sit down and actually craft out all my setting screen, make sure they were all hooked up and get them all set up. And it helps, that's just one example, but it helps with like all your systems in your game. And it helps you test them and it helps you encounter issues earlier. For example, as soon as I made my game, first thing I did was give it to my wife to try, and she sat down and she started clicking on all the UI buttons to try and interact with them. I had been testing the entire time with the gamepad. Buttons worked with the gamepad, didn't work with a mouse. So that was like immediately, having someone else just touch your game, immediately you start to see the problems where like, oh, I forgot to implement that or didn't implement that thing. And you start to get this feeling. But it's good to have this feeling early in the game development process where you still have time to like pivot and adjust to it, right? So it helps so much with a lot of my MVP elements. Another thing, kind of in the same category, is it highlights issues. One really good example for this for me was that this is a screenshot from the initial build of the alpha, and so I'd been testing the game in editor, mostly in Unity. Small little editor window, kind of in the midst of everything in my desktop. I'm testing it, I'm playing it. Finally, I do the build for the alpha. I test it for the first time in a full screen build, and I'm like, oh, this is way too close. I'm too the pixels are not the correct aspect ratio because I've been testing it in such a small window, and now seeing it up close, I was like, this is too big. So I ended up changing it, and I ended up changing the pixel aspect ratio. So now this is what the game looks like at the end. Now, as you can see, obviously we have a lot more screen real estate going on here and stuff like that. My levels suddenly need to all be changed and slightly manipulated and stuff like that. So the fact that I found this, after I'd only done 2 stages, meant I could still have time to pivot at this point, right? Had I done all 10 of my levels and 50 stages altogether, and then found this out, that wouldn't have been good. That would have been a lot more work involved, and I don't know if I would have been able to make that pivot at that time. So again, it just highlights those issues. I also found out some build issues and all that stuff like that. Things that I would have addressed eventually, but sometimes addressing them eventually is kind of too late. So it really helped to have this stopgap kind of in the middle to really test all these things. And finally, Feedback. I mean, obviously this was the point of the alpha in the first place, was to kind of get it out so people could play it and I could get some feedback on it. And I did get some feedback and it was very, very valuable. And the feedback I found kind of fell into some certain categories, which I found helpful. So the first ones were things that I kind of already knew. Like when I gave it out to my friend, I kind of knew, like, I'm like, oh, I bet you he's going to mention this. I bet you he's going to mention this thing that's not quite there and all that stuff like that. And there was a lot of that where it was kind of things that I already knew. But it's still good to hear that because it's kind of, solidifies that, yes, this is something that needs to be addressed, or yes, this is something that it's worth investing the time in to fix this because I'm hearing it. It's not just coming from me, it's coming from other people too. The other thing that I encountered that was interesting was some kind of, I'm calling them gameplay smells that I had kind of developed. When you're testing your game so often, you just become so used to it and so like ingrained with the way it does things. So for example, game's a traversal game, there's a lot of wall jumping mechanics. I became so used to the way wall jumping works with the current build of the game that like wall jumping was no problem for me. I do the inputs, it just happens all the time. 100% of the time I'm doing the wall jump. Someone else starts playing the game and they're not as in tune to that like specific rhythm. They're just kind of doing what naturally comes and now they're falling off the wall all the time because they're not as like in tune with the engine as I am, right? So it helped to have their perspective and I can kind of see the gameplay smells that I just become, nose blind to continue the metaphor. Speaking of perspective, having another perspective on the game, both in terms of like gameplay and narrative and everything, was just helpful in order to, it helps to have someone else's opinions because sometimes, they have great ideas and you're like, oh, I can adapt that, I can use that, that's great. Sometimes I don't agree with their opinions, but sometimes having that different perspective allows me to better define my perspective and figure out kind of what I'm trying to say in contrast to what they're saying. So it's always helpful to kind of get some other opinions, especially when you're doing such hardcore solo dev work where you're kind of like all in it all the time. It's good to have those other perspectives to kind of balance off of. And lastly, my friend liked the game, which was always good. He was a fan, he enjoyed the art, he enjoyed the music and all stuff like that. And so getting positive feedback is always good. It gives you that good dopamine hit of like, someone likes my game, it's exciting. So that was nice. I mean, if the person who's playtesting your game doesn't like it, maybe this doesn't catch out for you. But in my case, it worked well and is a good encouragement to continue. So this was the plan I made kind of back, the plan I kind of made in July and factoring how May and June it worked out. So this is kind of where we're at in the process now. So I'm in the midst of my dedicated week of working on the game after the alphas happened and all that stuff like that. But the alpha went so well, and I learned so much from the closing process of doing it and from the feedback on it that I've decided to put a beta into the process too. So I want to do kind of the same thing where I take more of the game this time, so more levels, a higher level of polish on some of the features that I've done. So things like the settings are in there, but they're not like the most easy user experience. So they get all that stuff, get all those I's dotted and T's crossed, get all that lined up. And then put together a beta, and then also have that be a more publicly accessible one. So share that more widely, get some more feedback on it, and then again have that time of kind of like repositioning based on the feedback, factoring that in prior to the launch on Steam. So the alpha process was so good. I'm like, let's do it again. So that's kind of everything. There's my socials. If you want to check out the game on itch.io, level0.dev is my blog that I post on occasionally, not as frequently as I should. And then that was the previous demo version of the game, and now here's what that same level looks like in the new updated version. Last thing I just want to say is just as I've been working on this process, obviously it's become very aware to me how much energy and effort goes into these creative things. It takes a ton of time, energy, and dedication, and not giving up. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone who's presenting today, because we're all creating stuff, and I think that's awesome. And sometimes it goes without reward, so it should be recommended and cheered. So that's everything I have prepared. If anyone has any questions or anything. Okay.
Next, we're going to invite Tack up to present.
Sorry.
You sent it to me on Discord?
Yeah.
Yeah, just alt tab to the or escape. Yeah, and then just go to the Discord tab at the top there. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Hi guys.
Hi.
All right. That's so. First, thank you very much for the host of this event at the New Manitoba. This was really making this the entire slide deck was in itself it was a learning opportunity for me. So I really appreciate the whole occasion here. My presentation is called Leveling Up, and then this is me kind of talking about my whole creative process. So before I talk about that, my name is Taku Yoneda, or whenever I create something, I go by the name Q Yoneda. I am originally from Japan, and I am a manga creator. I'm learning game dev right now because I love video games. But also, by day, while the sun's up, I make UX UI. I'm a UX UI designer in the city. And then I made this. I hope you like it. All right, so, well, by the way, shout out to Danielle. He gave me the full creative freedom while I'm making that illustration. So I was able to just go out of the line and like just do something a little bit unconventional. So thank you very much. Okay, so today I want to talk about the mentality behind my creative process. This, create more, and repeat. And then I want to start by throwing you this weird ratio number. Can you guess what it is? This is a very important number for me. Nobody. All right, we'll circle back. It's all right. But this is a very important ratio for me. So just memorize that, 5, 2, 2, 2, 3. So create. It's a verb. It's generally a verb, but also it's an acronym for me when I make something. And it stands for these. So contemplate, ready, engage, assemble, test, and elevate. So each stands for these. And then these are rough steps for me when I make something. Contemplate means you brainstorm, come up with ideas, purpose and goals, and basically you just kind of have an idea of what you're about to do. Ready is gather assets. You just mentally prepare yourself, do research, and then plan and schedule. Engage is you start getting your hands dirty by making mini prototypes and like thinking about MVPs, and basically in this engage stage or engage step, you nurture and confirm the vision of your game. Assemble is simply put together what you prepared until this point, by this point, and then making the whole flow from the beginning to the end. Test is, as it says, test game, fix the bug, adjust, and then balance everything. And then elevate is making additional improvements, and basically just making everything prettier. To further organize these steps, I categorize these steps into 3 different stages: prep, build, and refine. By the way, I'm talking about this, and this is not only about video game creation. This is all like UX UI design process as well. So I think this generally applies to a lot of like different creative styles and stuff like that. But anyway, I categorize these steps into 3 stages: prep, build, and refine. So I circle back to this. So you may have guessed it by now, I don't know, but like, no. So Lucky goes like, no. This ratio is actually how much time, resources, and effort should be spent, or at least I spent on each stage. And then, like, as you can see, like half of my creative process is actually prep. It's some sort of the golden ratio for me because I came up with this ratio by looking back many of my professional and also personal projects that I am proud of or I successfully done. And in pretty much every projects like that, that kind of follow this ratio. And how come this ratio is so important? I want to show you by showing the bad example as well. And by bad example, I also look back and then counted, my experience is that I often have 1 to 2 to 7 ratio, or maybe like 2 to 2 to 6 ratio. And then why that's bad? Well, your creative process goes like this. So on the left side is a good project. The right side is a bad project. And a good ratio goes, well, you take a lot of time to get to a certain level of quality, but once you get there, you just jump above the target quality line and you just keep going up. Now you'd be spending a lot of time, a lot of remaining of time to solely improve and make your game better or make your project entirely better. Bad project, on the other hand, you jump in and try to get to do something. You try to do something, and you do get to the target quality line relatively soon. But since you don't know what the hell you're doing, you just struggle. You just struggle to go above the target quality line, and you just so that comes down to like you'd be spending a lot of time bargaining or negotiating with yourself and trading off and trying to get something or trying to get a pass or trying to get a lot of good enoughs or worst case looking for excuses. In other words, your refining stage, meaning that like the last remaining part of your creative process, your refining stage becomes constant compromising, and that's a bad ratio project. You can focus on refining and improving your project with a good ratio, even though the allocation of the time is smaller than the bad ratio. You'll be spending 30% of your entire duration of your project very effectively. And that's why this 5 to 2 to 3 ratio is so important. Prep directly affects quality. And I want to give you finally, I want to give you the real life example I accumulated from the Peg Jam that I last joined February, I believe, right? So this is how I started. In contemplate step, I did exactly what I was supposed to do, which is sketching the ideas and looked at a lot of beehive photos and stuff that was actually kind of gross. Lots of mini bugs there. And then I made a design doc and decided the goal for the jam. I was very, very nervous, by the way, because as soon as the theme was announced, everybody just get to Unity, get to Godot, and then like just make. And I'm like doing something on pen and paper, and like everybody's doing something, I gotta be doing something. But I stuck with my process. So I went on to the ready step. I made a full schedule for the game jam with the cutoff conditions, milestones, and asset list, mutable to-do list. And I also did a lot of research and coding and then plugins because I wanted to use specific stuff. And this worked out really, really well. I stuck with it. Again, like I was looking around, like everybody's making stuff, and I'm just spreadsheet, just it's scary, but I stuck with it. By the way, this is heavily inspired by Sarah Tam of Relic Entertainment presentation about the project management. I've attended Game Biz Lab back in March, I think. And then that was an amazing presentation. I got super inspired, and then like, oh, I got to do the better project management. And then I kind of stole the idea, or borrowed the idea. I don't know. Oh, then this is the mutable to-do list. By mutable, I mean the just stay flexible, because depending on how I'm hitting the milestones, like I have to update the to-do list. I have to reprioritize things, right? And then especially this is a 48-hour game jam, so like I have to just constantly make the decision. So like I have to do that. So make sure that's mutable. And then finally, in engage step, I finally I feel better. I felt better at that point. I finally started making the actual game, but I started small. I made a super simple start screen, and then I made a little bit of sprite for characters, and then I tested the collisions and animation just to test the water, just like to make sure that I know how to do things. By doing that, I gradually nurtured and confirmed the vision of my game, and then like I just felt, okay, I'm confident enough that I can actually pull this off. And also by doing that, I made the parts of the game, and then I made the parts of the game which I would assemble in the next step into the full game, which is assemble step. And skipping ahead, I made this game Hive. This is a game jam game, so it's pretty short and sweet. But this is the first game I have ever made that I felt I've done it. Like I've done it properly. I've done it correctly. And I am very proud of this. And then after that, I participated in the Godot Wild Jam. And I got actually #1 in the graphic category, and then 15 in total out of 203 contenders. And I know exactly the number because I'm very proud of this. I want to brag. And of course, for this game, I strictly stuck with my process and ratio that I was talking about. By the way, I brought the binder full of this old thing. I printed everything out, so if you're interested in, I can write to you. I'm happy to share. So now you create. What do? You remember? You create more. And this is actually another acronym for me. So acronym CREATE is merely to make something more effectively and efficiently. More is to connect the creative process and its learning to the next one. So MORE stands for market, observe, reflect, and emulate. Market means bringing your product in front of people, with your game in front of people. Observe is see how people interact with your game, and your product in front of people, with your game in front of people. Observe is see how people interact with your game, and check stats and count and things like that. And reflect is, well, basically think about why people did that, why people did a certain thing, why people didn't do a certain thing. And emulate is apply everything you learned into your next project. And I actually got to do the actual thing. And then thanks for the nice cameo by Sasha there. And then Lucky's game is kind of next to my stuff, so I was very nervous. But yeah, I got to do the actual more part at Recent Icon. And exactly, I did market at my game, so I decorated my table nicely and observed how people play my game. And it was very unnerving, by the way. That was my first time, and then I'm just looking back, and you're like, I was literally like that. And in reflect, I actually got the straight feedback from the players, and some were good, some were a little bit more improvement needed, and things like that. But it was great. And emulate is something I am about to do this month. I'm going to jump into another game jam and test my theory, test my learning from this iteration of more. So that's create more. Now what? Do you remember? Probably not. That's all right. We repeat. And frankly, that's how you usually get better at things, right? Repetition. Or how you level up, right? When people think of repetition in learning, I think a lot of people think this kind of circle or loop or whatever you call it. Just go round and round. Just keep doing what you're doing. But I think it's a little bit misled or misleading. I think our experience should stack up, not loop around the same place over and over. I sure that it looks like this. I think it should look like this. Your repeat should look upward spiral. So from above, yes, it kind of looks like you're looping in the same place over and over, but actually every loop you make, every create more you do, you're actually going up because it's an upward spiral. So that's how you keep leveling up. That's how I tackle my creative projects. Create more, and repeat. We do that, then we're all leveling up. Thank you very much. Question? Nope. Thank you, guys.
Awesome, thank you, Tack. We're going to call Aiden up next to show off Polymino.
Yeah. I'll just. There we go. All right. Oh, come on.
Oh, no.
I'm getting hit by this too. View to request access.
I should have like.
That's crazy. It's
I could
like
have simplified this beforehand by like.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is on me.
I mean, it's not a huge deal. I thought since it's not a private YouTube video, so I didn't think this would be an issue. Let's see. Okay. You know what? It was just basically like context, just gameplay footage, which isn't really super important. So.
It's a YouTube video?
Yeah, it's a YouTube video. It's it's unlisted, but it's not private.
You
So
can pull it you can just pull it up in a tab.
that's
Like for that portion of it. So that way you can still show it. If you can if you send me the link and then on the Discord tab you can just pull it from there. Easy.
Oh, I think I got it here. Wait. Can I just
That's how you can get it up on the screen fast. Or well, doesn't mean fast, but like easier, I guess.
Okay. Well, I think I got it here, so. All right, well, sorry about that. But anyways, yeah, I'm Aiden. I'm going to talk about my game Polymino. Polymino is a puzzle game. Yay, we got the video. So you move the blocks around on your board, match up 3 of the same color, and when you do that, it launches projectiles in the same direction as the match you made. So you use those to destroy the giant junk pieces that are dropped at the top of the board, and those junk pieces shatter into more regular blocks, and then you use those to make more matches and destroy more junk, and that's pretty much the gist of it. So yeah, Polymino is on Steam. It's still in early access, so I am still working on it, but I've been working on it for about a year now, so there's a lot I've learned, especially since it's the first game I've made, released. Polymino also has a website. If you want to check out the game after the presentation, it's at polymino.net. There's a link to the store page, the Discord server. There's a Sega Genesis version of the game, which is a whole can of worms that I can't get into right now, but if you want to check it out, it's there. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is Keymailer. If you're not familiar, it's a service where you give keys for your game to content creators. So they get a free game to make content with, and you get free publicity, basically. So it's pretty beneficial. One thing I've learned about it is that the benefits go a bit further than just publicity, though. It can be a really great source of feedback. I mean, if it's a live stream, you basically have a recorded playtesting session with, commentary about what the player's thinking. You can also use it as an opportunity to network. So, I mean, when this person, Tetrium, played Polymino through Keymailer, I joined his Discord server afterwards, and even though his online following is like 10 times bigger than mine, he and the other people on the server still thought it was really cool that I was there. It's like, hey, the developer of the game Tetrium was playing. So I know of at least 2 people in addition to Tetrium himself who joined my server and bought my game as a result. So you can definitely get more benefit out of it than just publicity. I've also learned a couple lessons the hard way with Keymailer. So I learned it's really important to manually check out everybody who you're going to accept a key request for. Like, some people will literally just accept a whole bunch of keys on Keymailer, boot up a Twitch stream, and then burn through like 10 games in a stream. They'll play each game for like 20 minutes. They won't speak a single word. So you gotta, if you have a free Keymailer account, you can only give out 10 keys a month. So it's important to not let that happen, basically. So, you can't really trust the metrics Keymailer shows you. You have to manually do your research. And then another thing is, it's good if you can prioritize creators who specialize in your genre. I think that's probably the most important for niche games, but yeah, it's, the feedback is more valuable because it comes from a place of expertise. The publicity is better because the people, if they're watching a puzzle game streamer, the people probably care more about puzzle games. And yeah. Next, I'm going to share a little anecdote about crashes to desktop. So I've learned that if you're making a game in a programming language which is compiled to machine code, crashes to desktop can be a bit tricky. Like, just looking at this screenshot of the game's code, there's like some setup before that and some cleanup after it, but pretty much all the game's code is in that UI.main loop. So I used to think that meant that no matter what happens, if all else fails, we'll at least get to there and catch it and print something about it. And then one day I just released a big update on Steam, and I was playing the publicly released Steam build of the game, and it crashed. And then I went to the log files, and there was no error there. So now I don't even know where to start looking for tracking down this bug, which is in the public version of the game. In retrospect, what happened is that my game tried to access memory that the operating system didn't allocate for it. And when that happens and your game is, machine code, it's not running in a virtual machine, the operating system just kills it. It doesn't generate an exception for you. It doesn't magically know that your game was programmed in C++. So it just terminates the process. And you might even be missing some logs from right before the crash happened, because if those output buffers weren't flushed, then the logs didn't get written to the disk. So you can really be lacking information at this point. Fortunately, one of the biggest things I've learned while making Polymino is a way to diagnose issues like these. The exact process is a bit specific to my setup, so bear with me. But basically, I went to Windows Event Viewer, and oh, look at that, there's an error for when my game crashed. That's crazy. So if you click on it, you can see some information. The fault offset that's highlighted there, that's the address of the machine instruction where it crashed. So, you're going to want to write that down. Above that, there's a Windows exception code. So if you look that up, you can learn a bit more about what went wrong. But it's not super specific and didn't really end up being necessary. Basically, after I got that fault offset, I went to Visual Studio and launched the game, specifically the release build, because the binary code has to be identical. And then if you open up the modules and disassembly window, in modules you can copy the base address of the program once you've launched it and paused it. And then you add that to the fault offset, and it takes you to the machine instruction once you paste that into the disassembly window. And Visual Studio does this great thing where it'll generate information about which line of C++ code generated these machine instructions. So basically, I went from not knowing where to even start looking for this to having the exact line of code where it crashed. So that was a huge game changer for me. Like I said, insanely specific to my setup, but I mean, it was so groundbreaking, I just wanted to share it just in case, maybe it's relevant to someone. And then I'm going to talk about some Steam features that I've taken advantage of a lot. There's a whole laundry list here, but the thing I really want to focus on is remote play because I'm working on a versus mode for my game right now, and I don't have proper online multiplayer right now. It's just local multiplayer. But the way remote play works is it lets you do local multiplayer online because one person runs the game and their audio and video gets streamed to everyone else, and then everyone else's inputs get streamed to you. So it's not as ideal as proper online multiplayer, but it is a way to play your game over the internet with other people, so it's really valuable. And, you know, as opposed to alternatives like Parsec, it is nice when you can just be like, hey, you have Steam, right? Cool, just join my game, you know, instead of convincing somebody to set up Parsec or something else like that. So now that we have, you know, an overview of Steam features, let's leverage them, eh? So the first thing I'll talk about is related to the Steam leaderboards. There's an achievement you get if you beat my high score on the Steam leaderboards. And just as a side note, the reason I did that is because it's kind of like a design goal for me that people who are good at puzzle games should be able to just totally destroy my high score because I don't play a huge amount of puzzle games. So it's like when somebody beats my high score by like 1,000,000 points like that, you know, it kind of tells me I'm on the right track. So, but the thing I want to focus on here is the colors. So once you get this achievement, you can set a custom color for your name to appear on the Steam leaderboards. And I made this happen without having any game servers for the game. So, I mean, in terms of going about implementing that, the first place to look would be cloud storage. But Steam Cloud Storage isn't really a place to upload public stuff that anybody can access. It's more for like your own save data. So that option was out. But there is another online service with Steam where you do post public data, and it's the leaderboards themselves. I mean, you know, a leaderboard score is a 32-bit integer, but you know, a color can be a 32-bit integer, right? So why not just make another leaderboard and just interpret that data as a color instead? So that's exactly what I did. So when you look at the leaderboards in game, it's actually fetching a second leaderboard and it's just interpreting that data as a color. The next thing I've done is related to remote play together. I mentioned that, I should have mentioned that the game doesn't even have to be aware that remote play exists for it to work because it's the same as just local multiplayer. But Steam kind of lets you have your cake and eat it too because you can, there's functionality that lets your game be aware of remote play sessions. So if you have a Steam input handle, which is like a controller ID, you can query if it's associated with a remote play session and then get the Steam ID of the user who's connected to you. So when I found out that was possible, I was like, could you imagine if you were like playing remote play with somebody, you're not running the game yourself, but you're just live streaming it, but the game knows who you are and it's showing your name in the game, like what kind of wizardry is that? So I had to do that. There we go. Okay, small problem. Polymino doesn't use Steam input, it uses SDL, which is a really great cross-platform library. And so basically, unless SDL had some kind of magical function where you give it an SDL controller handle and get a Steam input handle, I was going to be out of luck. Oh, it's a magical function where you give it an SDL game controller handle and you get a Steam input handle. That's pretty cool. So now I can go from basically any controller in the game, see if it's being controlled by somebody connected over remote play, and get their Steam ID. So that does let me show their username in the game, but since we have their Steam ID now, we can do more wacky leaderboard shenanigans, you know? For example, the Steam leaderboards let you attach files to leaderboard scores. So like if it's a racing game, you might want to have a replay of the race attached to your best time. That's a pretty reasonable use for it, but I'm not a reasonable man. So instead, I'm going to use it for control preferences. So what I'm working on for the next update is basically you upload your control preferences and some like custom color choices, and then it'll, you know, attach it to a leaderboard. And then when you join somebody else's copy of the game over remote play, those settings will follow you to their copy of the game and automatically appear. So this is what setting up a local multiplayer game normally looks like. And then in the next update, this is what it's going to look like with my friend and I playing remote play there. And that's going to do it. That's all I've got. So thanks, everyone. I hope you found it entertaining. Don't forget to check out polymino.net. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Aiden. We're going to call up Sean. And I'm not quite sure what Sean is showing, but
Tile
Sean
tile.
will tell you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sean. I'm showing my game tile to tile. I just have to pull up my presentation. Is it on Discord? How did I find it?
It's in the
Browser. Ah,
Yeah.
mine's a PowerPoint. Let's see if it'll. Let's hope PowerPoint will open. It will not. I think you can open PowerPoint in.
This won't be. You'll have to send me a link to that because this is not my Google account.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, I see what you're
I think you
doing.
can
Oh,
open
yeah,
PowerPoints in
Yes, that's a good point. That's
Google
smart.
Slides. I think.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know if that actually did anything.
Try clicking up on the pop-up box.
Oh, but here? Is that?
Yeah, maybe try it.
Hey!
Hey.
How do I full screen? I haven't actually.
A slideshow in the top right, and then
There we are. I haven't used Google Slides. So yeah, I'm just doing my postmortem on like my actual icon presentation mostly, like my experience with icon. So it's about my game Tile to Tile. It's very similar to a lot of people. It's my first game that I'm planning on releasing on Steam. Pretty much your exact same timeline. Started in May, hoping for end of August. So I just wanted to cover what is Tile to Tile. It's an action platformer where the longer you're moving, the faster you go. So it has like inspiration from like CS:GO surfing, if you're familiar like to that, and it's also kind of similar to like games like Cluster Truck. So it features 3 different game modes where you can go from like a level select mode where you can just keep on playing one level over and over again. A set mode, which is like if you ever played like Mario Kart, where you can choose like this is the course that I'm playing, and then you have like the 4 levels. Mine, it's like you can play a set of 10 different levels, and then a gauntlet mode where you can play the entire game in a single run. And what's the point of all that? It features online leaderboards as well, so you can compare your best times against everyone's global times. I have like little skips that people can do, and just ways that they can shave off a small amount of time on each run through. So that's an example of like the leaderboard that's in the game currently. And then, so during my time on the first day of the convention, it was really useful because I was able to get like a wider audience of people to play my game than I usually am able to, because usually I just can send it off to friends, but most of the people I know also make games, so it's not exactly the widest array of people. So I took notes on what parts people were struggling with. I noticed one particular level was quite challenging for a lot of people, so I made fixes for that. And then I also got to see like that a lot of people actually would stay playing the game for a long time, which was a great sign, because like I had one person play for like 20 or 30 minutes straight at the booth, which is like awesome. And it was also good because I got more blunt feedback, because friends won't always tell you the truth if something sucks, but strangers don't care that much sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, what did I learn? The most popular levels were those that focused on the newer mechanic I had, which was like the more speed based, because I also had like a memorization based mechanic, and people weren't as big of a fan of those. So I kind of am pivoting my main focus of the game to just follow what people enjoyed more. Yeah, as I mentioned, some of the levels also had way too high of a difficulty level, so I wanted to turn those down or add more introductory levels before those showed up. And yeah, overall it seemed quite addictive to a lot of people. And yeah, the changes that I've made, they now have a higher emphasis on building up speed. So I have a new level that I made where it's like you can go upwards, build up speed, and then make this long jump that you wouldn't be able to make otherwise. Earlier levels have been made easier to allow easier entry into the game, and also the game mode options have better descriptions on what they do, because I found like people would always just go with the first one on the left, not exactly knowing what each one did. And then, shameless plug, here's the game page on Steam. Yeah, that's my presentation, and if anyone has any questions. Oh, do you want me to full screen it? Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Got it? Cool. Thank you.
Ooh, Sean. If anyone's interested in the games that were showcased at Icon, I don't know if we've posted them, but we can.
We can, yeah.
Yes, I'm sure the people that did show won't mind. But yeah, we can put those up. I just thought about that now when Tack was trying to pull out the QR code. Okay. Anyways, I'm next. I'm Sasha. How do I get to the thing?
Discord tab.
And then I go to us.
Yeah.
This guy. Or a secret conversation. Okay, here we go. Why not share?
I don't care about privacy. Although I guess it's.
Okay, so a little. Let's see here. Where do I start? Melody Quest Battle Beats. This is what the final game looks like. In fact, I kind of finished up some polished stuff today with the controls on the bottom and everything. This was actually created with these 5 people. So we have Vadim, Christian, Eli, Riley, and myself. We all work for Zenfry Inc. And this was actually an internal game jam we did. And it was unaware to Corey that it was that the jam kind of happened to coincide July, which is slow jam. But this was our jam here, just that week, those 5 days. There were some extra days afterwards, I don't know which days, where Christian and I were allowed to do some final polish to it. But overall, those 5 days were like 90% of the work. And on the first day, on the 15th there, we had that within like the first half hour of our setup. That was Christian. That's but yeah, we just got down and talking. Eli really wanted to just do a basic game where you very basic controls. You have the buttons, you press the buttons. Nothing complicated like 3D World or anything like that, or platformers. So we decided to do a rhythm game because apparently that's not as complicated. So you can tell it kind of has some inspiration. It kind of looks like Guitar Hero. But the inspiration originally came from a game called Patapon? 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 Okay. I've never played it. In fact, the first time I heard about it was on July 15th. But yeah, so this was pretty much within the first half hour of just iterating over the ideas. We decided we wanted to have a boss. So the last level, we have a boss in the background, like a health meter. And quickly we found out during that iteration process that purple doesn't work because it doesn't match the colors. I forget which colors. Oh, Xbox controller colors. There's no purple buttons. So we switched that. But we also found out that even if we match the colors anyways, no matter which, if you switch to like a PlayStation one, you're gonna have different colors. Which is actually a big flaw in kind of the design of this. I won't get too deep into that. But yeah, so this is like maybe day 2. We have my programmer art, and then Christian's, I went in Photoshopped and I stole his bat. And I put it into the scene. Just some more art. Eli managed to get these heroes in. I called them hero cubes inside the Trello because we track things in Trello. And he took that literally and put in cubes, which is fine. And I also got these bushes in. Riley was doing some important work that isn't visible, which is one of the unfortunate things of development sometimes is you do a lot of work and no one sees it, right? But we get to an issue pretty quickly on maybe the third or second day, because the team, we meet every morning and we talk to each other when we need to. We're all remote, and so sometimes we don't see what other people are working on for quite a while, because you have an idea in your head, you don't know what other people's ideas in your head, you kind of hope it's the same. Or like something doesn't come up, they don't think about it, right? No one thinks about it until it comes up. And so this is an example here, is that right here we have, on the right side of the screen, this is a brick, it's supposed to be flat on the ground, but when it comes over the horizon, it's just a 2D sprite. So how do you get that flat on the ground, right? So that was the problem. So the solution was just don't deal with that, just make it like that, right? And so there was a few other 2D sprites that had that issue. But the issue really was that we look here, like this is what the world looks like. It's just a cylinder, it's squished. When things come over the horizon, you'd be able to see like the edge. It was either that or they'd pop out of the ground, which looked worse. So we just avoided that completely. This is just some examples of, there's 3 levels in the game. This is the 3rd level art. All that's level 1. There's a bit of a sneak peek of the boss in the background there. Yeah, so it is a rhythm game, so I had to spend a lot of time on mapping out the level data. And so normally if you were to do this, you'd probably create some sort of tool to do that for you. But we didn't have time to do that. It was to do 3 levels. It was much faster to do it this way, as in, I'll explain in a second, than to do it like creating a level editor. And so this is FL Studio, which most people know of now. I just took like the audio, the songs, and then I made sure that they match like the tempo, and then I set 4 tracks, and then I just kind of like put the things where I wanted them, and then I manually typed it all in. So this is what it looks. This is what it looked like at the end. I mean, at the start, this changed quite a bit, but you can see that the level contains the type of terrain, the song it plays. I won't get into divisions, the BPM, and what kind of scenery can show up on the sides, and all the different enemies that spawn. I had this idea that maybe we can put inside, like, when you defeat an enemy, it plays a certain note, or it changes the pitch of the action the character is doing, but we didn't get there. So a lot of them just say 64, which would be like, I think a middle C in MIDI or something. This is just some more concept art from Christian. We were trying to figure out what the continue screen looks like. But usually how this happens is Christian will give me something. I'll give feedback. He'll give something else like this. And then I'll make it into something. And then he'll give feedback to me, and it's kind of back and forth until we get something that we like. And so this is what it looks like, except it says button to continue, not key now. Another example of the title screen before we did any sort of changes. We'll call this alpha art. The snake's actually green, the bat's not, these are just not complete. And this is, we have a technical artist who doesn't do 2D animations. Like, they do all 3D stuff, and like, the most 3D there is that cylinder. And so what are they gonna do? And so, and Christian's does more like 2D art anyways, right? So they were given the task of like animating, this is Vadim, animating all these characters. And so he started off doing it more, I guess, in this way, hand drawn. And then I'm not quite sure how they did this. I think Christian drew different frames and cells of the characters and Vadim went and animated them. But yeah, so that's the boss. Unfortunately, the boss is in the last level, but not to the extent that we wanted to. So I wanted to, especially not animated, but I wanted to at least show the hard work in animating this character and the characters fighting him because, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions? I did attempt to, just today, as the very opening might suggest, try to make it Winnitron compatible. I tried putting it on there. I can get it to run on there, just not through the Winnitron. So we can try that out later, if anyone wants. I was gonna play we can actually show a video of it.
Yeah.
Or actually, we can play, not the final release.
The trailer.
How do we do this? Send for at the start?
I think it's
Oh, it's definitely an unlisted game. I would have to sign in, which I can't do.
Can you just send me the link? Like from your phone?
No, I don't think so. Oh, wait. Wait, we can do this. Because I put it on my own.
On your
Melody Quest Battle Beats.
Oh, cool.
Okay, it's one of two things. So this is like the game released maybe the week after, so it doesn't have a lot of the polish, some of the polish, but you'll get I gotta make it full screen before it breaks. It might be broken. It's not. The UI is also messed up because we didn't, it has a little prologue, which if the UI was good, you'd be able to read. But essentially, Lyra here, the bard, is the chosen hero of destiny and is tasked with gathering the 4 heroes to vanquish evil, pretty much. Because on their own, I guess they're useless, I don't know. Yeah. There's a little credit roll too, but we'll skip that. This is where it gets interesting. Anyways, the level like repeats. Something that I did fix was that if you press escape, it restarts the level. If you press it again, it goes to the title screen. But yeah, that's Melody Quest Battle Beats. Do I close this one?
Oh yeah, leave it on that one.
Yes. And here's the QR code.
So cool. That wraps it up. I think I feel very fortunate to be in a community like this with people like some of the same people that are here at Icon. So it's like really motivating to see people that are passionate to the extent that they're like involving themselves in like this event. It's fun for me to organize this, but if there's not people that participate and more than that, people that are passionate about participating, that really does mean like quite a bit to myself and to the community. So I wanted to thank everyone for being patient with some of the technical stuff and what have you, and of course your time and efforts to like be here is like everything really, because at the end of the day I could stand up here and yap, but I'm not really, I don't have, yeah, anyways. So other than that, I wanted to thank everyone for speaking. Also, New Midi Manitoba, the space that we're in, that makes a huge difference having a venue to do these kinds of things in. And everyone behind the scenes, both with the Game Collective and then also with New Midi Manitoba, everyone working together makes this stuff possible, and I feel very fortunate to be a part of that. So, yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and that'll be it. So, yeah.